Yeah, this time the target was Münster in Germany. Crossing across the North Sea was okay, normal flying, except that when the navigator asked the pilot to climb to 19,000 feet, which was the bombing height that day, we found he couldn't get the height, only 18,500 feet high. A discussion took place between the crew, and we decided we'd carry on didn't want to turn back. So we carried on to the bombing site, and as we approached we had a bit of flak. And on the bombing run, Taffy was giving orders to Phil to, steady, left, right. And all of a sudden I discovered I was sitting in fresh air. Made me smile a bit at the time, but I thought, well, how has this come about? And as I come to, my guns were trailing over the tail turret, and the ammunition was being pulled out all along the fuselage. Thinking to myself, well, it's no good sitting here. No good without guns. I'll go up the front with the pilot. Which I did, or attempted to do. Disconnected oxygen, etc., to go up the front. And the aircraft was running massive flames. So, at the same time, I saw somebody disappear through the front hatch. So I picked up my parachute. It was burning. And I guess through the lack of oxygen, these things were happening. But I just dropped the parachute back down, thinking, well, that's no use to me. And all this happened in a matter of seconds, I guess, but it seemed ages. But I saw Charlie up the front, that was a flight engineer. He seemed to be running back to me over the spar. He picks up the chute. I remember him doing it. I can see him now as I'm talking, putting his arm across the flames on the chute, clipping it on, and somehow he got me over the spar into the front of the aircraft, into the cockpit where the exit was. And the last thing I saw before he pushed me out was my pilot Phil sitting there with the stick back into his stomach, very white. I can remember that, and you can see him now. And Charlie pushed me out, and I came to proper then, coming down in the fresh air, and while I was coming down I could hear psst, 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 and I assumed it was bullets being fired from the ground by the troops that I could see as I was coming down, surrounding me. And a Spitfire circled around as well while I was coming down. Didn't see any other chutes. I just hoped and prayed that everybody was out. But I did see the plane, which I assumed was our plane, making a perfect belly landing away in the distance. Just one mass of flames. Of course, that disappeared out of my sight. And this Spitfire was circling, and he must have been within 500 feet of the ground. And he dipped his wings and then shot away up in the air, enough to say, I'm on the way home. And that's when I really first felt lonely, just for a split second. And then I was on the ground. And of course I could see as I was landing that there's civilians and troops running into this field that I was about to land in, which I discovered, well, in my opinion, was a field of sugar beet. And of course, landed a bit heavy, not having a full chute, and I disconnected it and had no chance of escape. It was 6:30 in the evening. I stood with my hands up, and a couple of German soldiers were within 50 yards of me by that time. And they gave me a search all over, make sure I got no firearms, etc. And from there we marched across the field, which was, as I say, a bit rough walking because it was some kind of root crop. I said it was sugar beet, but anyway, I had carrying the open parachute, and the guard put his foot on some barbed wire at the end of the field, and I had to crawl underneath this wire, which was not easy of his tasks, being that open a big parachute carrier. It put me into a coach there where I was strip searched, and the parachute and flying jacket suits were taken from me and thrown into the back of the coach. Well, while that was going on, Charlie arrived he'd been picked up, and also Taffy, and they went through the same treatment as I did. But shaking hands with Charlie as he got in, welcome, didn't speak at all, just shaking hands. We got hit across the wrist with the butt of the rifle, which was a little bit painful. And same as the kick I had as we got through the barbed wire. I stopped like an English gentleman, as I say, to allow them to get through because I didn't know where I had to go. And the jackboot went right in my rear, which I felt for several days afterwards. So anyhow, finally we got put into some army barracks where we were. We'd been walking along this canal bank and were being beaten up by the civilians with broom handles and forks. And if it hadn't been for the guards protecting us and attempting to fire at the civilians, well, I don't think I'd be here now. But anyway, we finally arrived in this army barracks where we stood in a big hall, or kind of a dining hall place, or assembly hall. And after we were standing there, I was on the right, Taffy in the middle, and Charlie was on the left. And we, all of a sudden the door opened directly in front of us. Taffy started falling, so we instantly grabbed him, stopped him falling on the ground. And the chap in the doorway says, "It's all right, Taffy. The war's over for you." And he disappeared. Of course, we couldn't talk to each other. And we didn't find out until we got into the actual camp, Luft 7 in Poland, what it was all about. And it turned out that in 1938, this chap was working with Taffy in South Wales, and he'd left there to go to Cambridge to improve himself, and I guess he went back to Germany.